The Middle East balances on a razor's edge. A newly brokered Lebanese truce is already crumbling. Devastating Israeli airstrikes battered southern towns, killing thousands and dozens. In swift retaliation, Hezbollah eliminated 4 combat troops, including a battalion commander. This sudden bloodshed threatens to unveil the historic American-Iranian peace framework. Consequently, crucial diplomatic summits in Switzerland had stumbled. Envoys Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi are running and rushing to the Alps to salvage negotiations. While Washington lifts its naval blockade on Tehran, Tel Aviv's demand for permanent security zones severely restrains relations with the Trump administration. As the situation escalates, can this fragile pact survive? Welcome to ThinkTank.
Our world is becoming unhinged.
A fragile truce in Lebanon briefly collapsed into deadly violence between Israel and Hezbollah. Fortunately, both sides swiftly renewed the ceasefire, stepping back from the brink to avoid deeper regional chaos. Yet these broader clashes severely derailed high-stakes US-Iran talks in Switzerland. Following the bloodshed, J.D. Vance postponed his arrival, stalling a landmark 60-day diplomatic push to end broader hostilities. While Washington has lifted its naval blockade on Tehran, the situation remains extremely sensitive. With mounting domestic pressures on Israeli and American leaders, the Middle East balances precariously between historic peace and total war. U.S. intelligence warns that Israel might sabotage the recent American-Iranian peace agreement. Facing critical upcoming elections, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under massive domestic pressure to maintain the military occupation of southern Lebanon, ignoring Washington's call to hold hostilities. This hardline stance creates a severe rift with the Trump administration. While the White House's priority was finalizing the Tehran deal to stabilize global markets, Tel Aviv views the pact as a direct threat that empowers its greatest regional rival. Ultimately, this power struggle places the Middle East at a dangerous crossroad. If American leverage fails to restrain Israeli military campaigns, these ongoing border battles will likely shatter any remaining hopes for long-term regional security. A freshly brokered accord in Lebanon is already fraying. Deadly mutual barrages have halted crucial US-Iran summits in Geneva and pushed Beirut to the edge of failure, prompting emergency American intervention. Is regional stability slipping away? Let's examine the crisis.
A fragile truce shattered, despite a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah taking effect at 4 p.m. Israelis overnight struck and killed at least 5 in southern Lebanon, including a soldier, violating the new silence. Yet, this violence has swiftly been answered. In retaliation, Hezbollah targeted an Israeli patrol, killing 4 occupation army soldiers, including a battalion chief. This escalating bloodshed turned a diplomatic milestone into a battlefield tragedy. Consequently, these shockwaves are now derailing high-stakes diplomacy. The fallout immediately impacted regional negotiations. Citing the violence, the US-Iran peace talks in Switzerland were postponed. Tehran condemned the strikes, warning of consequences, casting a shadow over security dialogue, while US officials like J.D. Vance defend the broader diplomatic framework, noting a lifted naval blockade. The path forward remains fraught with hurdles. Ultimately, the region stands at a critical crossroads, with Washington grappling over the Iran deal's future. Continuous violations in Lebanon threaten to unravel months of quiet diplomacy. Without strict adherence to truces, regional peace remains an illusion. Beyond the geopolitical chessboard, the human cost is pushing the Lebanese state to the brink. The violence has exacted a severe civilian toll, with dozens reported killed in the strikes hitting populated areas like Nabatea. This internal bleeding has triggered an urgent scramble to prevent state collapse. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held critical talks with the Lebanese President Joseph Aoun to stabilize the security apparatus, underscoring the harsh reality. Without a sovereign, stable Lebanese government, any broader regional truce remains fundamentally hollow.
To provide more analysis, joining us from Washington, D.C., Dr. Intafat Kambar, professor in statecraft and national security at the Institute of World Politics, and from Cairo, Dr. Mustafa Khedewi, assistant professor of law and international relations. A very warm welcome to ThinkTank, and it's a pleasure to have you both, our distinguished guests. We start off with Dr. Kambar. What specific diplomatic role is Jared Kushner playing alongside envoy Steve Witkoff in Switzerland right now as we talk?
Well, Kushner is a very important part of this negotiation in Switzerland. They obviously went to Switzerland to negotiate technical details. But what we see by the egregious Iranian behaviors now of declaring the Strait of Hormuz closed, it makes us believe that this deal may not go through all the way, because apparently there's no real leadership in Iran, and the IRGC calling the shots, and they stop putting sticks in the wheel of advancing these negotiations. This is exactly why President Trump has been criticized by his most closest allies in Washington for signing this memorandum of understanding, which many people look at it as giving Iran what they want.
Okay, perfect, sir. Dr. Khedewi, Dr. Of course, Kambar, I'd like you to comment on what he said if you want. Plus, do the overnight strikes on Arab Salim and Nabatea legally nullify the renewed ceasefire agreement, which Dr. Kambar was just discussing now, and mentioning that Iran doesn't have a true leader, and I want your narrative on this, and of course saying that that's why Donald Trump was hesitated about the ceasefire.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Well, the situation is very complicated, and as we can see that the memorandum of understanding, it is quite was a good news for all the world in terms of its objective to end the war and to start some kind of negotiation and so on. That's one side. But on the other side, yes, the content of the memorandum of understanding might not be very welcomed by all parties. But we have to consider what exactly Iran has lost in this war, and that's why they are trying to push as much as they can to gain more gains and more some kind of, what they have lost to be recovered. With regard to your question, well, this is actually the goal of these strikes. Israel wants to obstruct the current memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. And Israel wants to extend its power in southern Lebanon, or at least to show that it has the upper hand even after the ceasefire agreement. Under international law...
Sir, what took place after the ceasefire agreement from your own narrative? that made Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz, like Dr. Kambar just said now, isn't it? Because Israel violated one of the main points of the 14 ceasefire deal in the memorandum of understanding signed between Tehran and the United States under the, of course, presidency of Donald Trump.
That's actually one of the things that Iran was insisting for. And if you remember at the very beginning, Lebanon was not included in the memorandum of understanding, but Iran has insisted to include Lebanon and all other fronts to have a ceasefire or to have this kind of ending the hostilities. But Israel is not happy with this, and that's why they are causing some kind of obstructs. And that's what is going to continue. But let me continue in terms of the definition of ceasefire or under international law. Ceasefire is not necessarily terminated by a single violation, even if it's a serious one. The key legal question is whether the strikes constituted a material breach and whether the parties can tolerate. And this is, I think, what now is Iran is trying to make some pressure on the international community, on the United States and Israel, to say that, okay, if you are not going to respect the memorandum of understanding that has been signed, then we will not go farther or go on with the agreement, because it was a condition by Iran to end the hostilities and so on. So this kind of aggression, of course, it would increase the distrust between the parties and push Hezbollah to continue fighting, something that Israel is hoping to or hoping for, to show that it was Hezbollah that breached the ceasefire agreement. Yes, we can understand that the United States president, the U.S. president is trying to put more pressure on Israel to prevent it from attacking Lebanon or taking further actions. But this is still kind of, ongoing pressure. We will see if President Trump will be able to convince the Israeli leadership to stop this and to return to the path of the ceasefire and the memorandum of understanding.
Got your point, sir. Dr. Kamber, back again to you. Of course, you have the right to answer anything you want to. Does Vice President Vance's abrupt cancellation signal a deeper American mistrust of Tehran, as you just mentioned, or frustration with Tel Aviv?
Well, I don't see why would Israel accept Iranian putting conditions on the war with Hezbollah. The issue of Hezbollah is this issue between
They did
Israel
not put conditions, sir, to my knowledge, about Hezbollah. The condition was that Israel stops attacking and violating and taking and of course breaching ceasefires and of course jumping into Lebanon and killing civilians and taking in northern of Lebanon, and this was their condition. It was not Hezbollah.
Can I answer, please?
Hezbollah wasn't their case at all.
Can you give me the chance to answer, please? Well, I don't see, in negotiations, in the art of negotiations, I don't see why Iran should have a say on what Israel do or do not do in Lebanon, whether Israel was wrong or right. I don't think Iran should have any say in that. Lebanon is not Iran. Iran is not Lebanon. The Lebanese are sitting here in Washington and negotiating directly with the Israelis. Why would Iran have a say in what Israel do or does not do? There's a legitimate Lebanese government who could defend herself, and the United States is a mediator between Israel and Lebanon.
It's an ally, it's not a mediator, sir.
Iran has absolutely, I think if Iran have a say in Lebanon, this is a very dangerous precedent, which means Iran will have a say in Yemen, and then next Iran will have say in Iraq, and next will have a say in everything. This is absolutely unacceptable. The Israelis and the Lebanese are responsible for ending this war, and we hope it's going to end. We hope the Israelis is going to withdraw, but also Hezbollah must disarm. The Lebanese government itself is calling for Hezbollah to disarm. And the head of Hezbollah yesterday gave a speech and said, we are not disarming. So Hezbollah is not necessarily only in violation of the Israeli rights. They are in violation of their own government and their own country and their own people. And again, the one who has the final say in this is Lebanese government, which is legitimate and respectable, and the Israelis, and they're sitting talking to each other in Washington. I think for Iran to have a say in Lebanon is an extremely dangerous precedent, and we shall all reject it and not accept it at all.
Okay, sir, I want to ask you a question in this context. Are you okay with what Israel is doing in northern Lebanon and with the civilians and women and children that are killed every day and the displacements that are taking place in the country at this point as you are defending Israel?
I'm against any sort of violence, but Hezbollah has to stop bombing Israel, and Hezbollah has to disarm.
We're in a loop,
sir,
here that Hezbollah is not the case of our discussion. We're discussing furthermore now when I asked you another different total question, which was at that point a question not related to Hezbollah at all. And I want to stick, please, to the question. Sir, I asked you, is there mistrust deeper? Did Vice President J.D. Vance abrupt cancellation signal a deeper American mistrust of Tehran or frustration with Tel Aviv? Could you please answer this question, sir? And Hezbollah is not the case now at all.
Well, I think the right wing of the MAGA of the Republican Party, there's a very extreme right wing isolationists, which are increasingly becoming anti-Israel. And I think J.D. Vance wants to answer to those people because he's thinking to run for elections 2028. But I don't think what he said is going to fly. I don't think it's going to go through.
I don't know, sir, whether you're updated or not, but J.D. Vance is traveling tomorrow, supposedly, to...
There's a huge pushback against him in Washington, all I can tell you.
Okay, Dr. Khedewi, back to you again. From a legal standpoint, does Israel's unilateral 200 square mile security zone constitute an illegal foreign occupation?
Well, that's always a justification for more territorial expansion. Under international law, Israel's unilateral declaration of security zone constitutes an illegal foreign occupation. Because international law defines occupation as when a state exercises unconsented effective control over a territory to which it has no sovereign title, and therefore a territory considered occupied when it is actually placed under the authority of a hostile army. In terms of effective control, Israel has prevented civilians and journalists from entering the area and has already placed its army there with no intention to withdraw, as declared by the Prime Minister of Israel just a few days ago. He said very clearly that we have no intention to withdraw from Lebanon or southern Lebanon. So the zone was imposed unilaterally by Israel without Lebanese consent, and that's why the Lebanese government and the United Nations and many actors and countries consider this as
a violation of international law.
Of course, worth mentioning that Israel.
Of course, it's not like Dr. Comber is saying that the case is Hezbollah, and why is Iran defending Lebanon? It is the right of any country to defend another country.
Well, that takes us to the question or the comparison about why United States have a say about whatever Israel is doing in the Middle East. That's another comparison about, allies and proxies and so on. But it is what we are dealing with now is the reality. What we have is a real situation in which we have parties who are aligned with other parties, and that's why they have to resolve this conflict completely. But we have to remember that Israel has not fully implemented the United Nations Security Council resolution, which calls for withdrawal from all Lebanese territories since 1978. So even in terms of how Israel is classifying or referring to its action, it calls it a security zone or a buffer zone. But to be legal, buffer zone or a security zone requires mutual agreement between the two countries. However, it was not the case. The case was actually we have unilateral violation of the Lebanon sovereignty. And we have to remember Israel boundaries have increasingly shifted through wars, annexations, occupation, and ceasefires. So there is no clear borders. And what I want to say here that Israel exercised unconsented effective control over Lebanese territory, what they call a security zone, meets the legal definition of occupation and gives the lack of the consent and then non-compliance of the United
Got your
Nations
point, sir. Dr.
resolution.
Kambar.
It's illegal.
How will
Yeah.
Washington react if U.S. intelligence proves Israel is actively and deliberately
Yes,
sabotaging the peace?
yes, but the United Nations also condemned Hezbollah. Is any country in the world that's a real country has a party outside the government owns hundreds of thousands of missiles and shooting at other countries is not acceptable.
Dr.
I
Kambar, can I
guarantee
please
you.
ask you a
I
favor,
guarantee you.
please?
I guarantee you, if Hezbollah
Dr.
have
Kambar, can I please ask you a favor?
yes.
We are discussing in this episode Washington and Tehran and the ceasefire and memorandum of understanding that is taking place or due to take place as soon and is already taking place. How will Washington react if U.S. intelligence proves Israel is actively and deliberately sabotaging the peace deal, please, sir?
I don't think Washington has any control on Israel. It's a sovereign country. And are they
Washington
going to do
doesn't have any control over Israel?
No, no. They have.
How come,
deep.
sir?
They are deep relations.
I want you to further elaborate, please.
Yeah, I'm elaborating, but you don't allow me.
I'm very sorry if I don't allow you, but elaborate.
Washington has influence on Israel, but cannot control Israel. Israel will take any action to protect themselves against a terrorist organization that is killing Lebanese before that they're killing Israelis. How many Lebanese has been killed by Hezbollah? Rafiq al-Hariri, their prime minister, was killed by the legitimate prime minister of Lebanon was killed by Hezbollah. He was not killed by Israel. Journalists, politicians has been killed by Hezbollah. Then they went on an outrageous war in Syria, killing Syrian civilians, hundreds of thousands. This is a terrorist organization. I guarantee you, if Washington and Tel Aviv work together to dismantle Hezbollah, along with the Lebanese government, there will be no occupation of Israel to any piece of land in Lebanon. There's no interest in that. And Washington knows that. And Washington knows that Hezbollah is an arm of Iran mullahs to disrupt peace and to stop this peaceful process. And I look forward to see the day that Lebanon has normal relations with Israel without Hezbollah.
Okay, Dr. Khedewi, your take, please. How does the tragic death of a Lebanese National Army soldier alter Beirut's legal position on international protection?
Well, first of all, I just want to comment about what has been mentioned now.
I'd love that you comment, sir.
Yeah, well, in terms of the claim that, or shifting the discussion now from looking at who actually initiating the strikes and who actually is trying to destroy the peace agreement or the potential peace deal, and focusing on one of the actors who was actually responsible for, yes, of course, that's another internal issue in Lebanese story, because Hezbollah or any other faction of Lebanon is actually working within the framework of the state. They are part of the state. They cannot be neglected or excluded. So, and this is what the internal structure of power there is working. So, whether you classify it or you like it or not like it, we are trying to now comment about what Israel is doing, how they are behaving. That's the whole story. Who actually started this war from the very beginning? Who occupied these lands? Who initiating this kind of criminal international criminal acts? So what I want to say that it is very unfair to shift the discussion from focusing on the perpetrator, the criminal, and now trying to find another person to say, oh, this is the criminal, this is the terrorist, and this is who is responsible for everything. We have to remember that some of these groups have actually raised it or came in power as a reaction to the occupation. And back to your question, yes, of course, the death of the Lebanese soldier strengthens Lebanon legal argument in terms of its sovereignty and institution. Um, Being directly affected by the conflict. And this is what I want to say here in terms of the strikes didn't distinguish between a governmental or an army member and a member of Hezbollah or even UNIFIL peacekeeping force. So recently we have heard the news about, UNIFIL peacekeeping forces have been targeted. And of course, this is now the news about the Lebanese soldier of the National Army. And of course, the attacks against Hezbollah. So the acts of aggression and strikes and attacks does not distinguish between any person inside Lebanon. As long as you are on the southern Lebanon territory, which is the target of the Israelis, then you can be attacked at any time, at any point of time. So what I want to say that this kind of attacks puts greater pressure on international actors to support the Lebanese armed forces as a legitimate security institution of the state, of course. And this is what we are looking for. We are looking for a Lebanon, strong institutions. That's how
we're looking for a strong global economy. We're looking for a strong Middle East. We don't want changes. Dr. Kambar, do you want to answer?
I disagree with him because the war.
Why do you disagree with him?
Because the war started by Hezbollah after October 7th. Hezbollah was not a party in the war. The Hezbollah, with order from Iran, started the war. Again, with the recent war with Iran, Hezbollah started the bombing, started the war with orders from Iran. I just want to tell you one thing. In Iraq, in the Gulf countries, which are neighboring or close to Iran proximity, the existential threat to these countries is Iran, not Israel. So I don't know, but the priorities are different. Iran is the one who is shaking the stability in Iraq, in Syria, and the Gulf countries. Iran, which attacked the Gulf countries.
Was Iran who attacked the United States and Israel to start with, sir, when this war started?
It doesn't matter. Iran basically using their militias in Iraq to destabilize Iraq. These militias attacked Iraqi airports, attacked Iraqi army, attacks Kurdish Peshmerga with orders from Iran. The same thing, the Iranian attack on Kuwait airport. What does that have to do with the war? What's the airport of Kuwait has to do with the war? Or the hotels in Dubai. So Iran is the existential threat to us. For
us,
Gulfies.
Who do you imply by us, sir?
The Gulf and Iraqis. I'm an Iraqi American myself. So what is Iran is existential danger in these areas, not Israel. And basically
Israel Iran
is using Hezbollah to destabilize Lebanon and as an arm to kill Lebanese more than killing Israelis. If you count how many Lebanese civilians killed by Hezbollah, it exceeds by far what the Israelis killed.
Okay, sir, as you insist about discussing Hezbollah, let's move on to Gaza and discuss how many ceasefires were breached by Israel.
I don't know. I don't follow Gaza very much. It's not on my priority, honestly.
It's not on your priority. Thank you. Could you answer, please, on his behalf, Dr. Khedewi, please?
Well, it was evidence that it always actually ceasefire agreements and has been breached by the Israelis, and it was very close. Even Donald Trump, the president of the United States, actually complained about how the Israelis behave in terms of trying to put him in a critical situation whenever they try to finish a deal or something, and then they come up with the attack on Lebanon. So Gaza is still a very critical issue, and we have to remember that we are just shifting from one place to the other. But once the Lebanon conflict calm down, we don't know. We might
Dr.
start
Khedewi, of
another.
course, all respect to what you said, but I just want, we don't want to get involved in Hezbollah and Gaza, and Lebanon, of course, was one of the main points because they are killing civilians in Lebanon and in Gaza, Israel. And they don't want to stop, and the international community is not affordable to stop them, and they don't listen to anybody in this world. Dr. Kambar, back to you again. Is the White House willing to cut off munitions or jet fuel to force Netanyahu's compliance with the peace deal, which Donald Trump really wants a peace deal at this time? He does not want war?
I think it's highly unlikely. I think the United States and President Trump specifically hold a huge respect for Israel, and he has very strong relations with Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Do you think his
Sometimes
buying time?
they have differences, and they have disagreement on things. They are two different sovereign countries, and they have two different priorities, and that is expected even between one family.
Sir, do you think that they're buying time by this memorandum of understanding, but they're not going to end the war because of Israel?
Who? The Iranians are buying time,
The United
yes.
States, sir. Iranians are buying time.
Actually, I think the Iranians are buying time more than the United States, because I think the Iranian strategy is very clear, and I have my contacts inside Iraq, and some Iranian people tell me that this is the Iranian mullahs regime wants to outlast Trump. They think they can continue negotiations until the 2.5 years of Trump ends, and they're hoping somebody else will come after Trump will be nicer to them, like Biden was or Obama. But I think Iran has absolutely no intention for permanent peace in the Middle East, and the IRGC will continue to attack neighboring countries, and they will continue to expand their heinous violence revolution. And they also use something called al-taqiyya, which is a doctrine adopted by the mullahs of Iran, in which they say one thing and they lie about it, and they consider this as a holy lying scheme. So this is a regime we will not.
What is the name again, sir? What's the name?
Al-taqiyya.
Al-taqiyya?
Yeah. Okay. And I think I'm absent. If we don't see this regime in Iran fall, collapse, or removed, well, I don't think we're going to see a stable Middle East in the near future.
So you want the regime to fall?
Absolutely. The Iranian people want them to fall. They killed 40,000 Iranians on the streets. I mean, it takes a lot of bullets to do that, but they've done it. So they are the enemies of their own people. They're killing their own people. They're using Hezbollah to destroy Lebanon. They're using Iraqi Shia militias to destroy Iraq. 50% of the attacks on the Gulf states came from Iraqi militias, proxies of Iran. They didn't come from anywhere else. So that shows you this is a regime has been for 47 years has been destabilizing the region. They name a street after the person who killed your great president Anwar Sadat. God bless his soul. They named the Islambuli street in the middle of Tehran. So this is a heinous criminal regime that I don't think we can to see peace in the Middle East without seeing this regime fall away and liberate.
Do you think the regime is going to fall, sir? Dr. Khedewi, of course, because we are.
I don't think so. I don't think. I don't know. We don't know what's the dynamics inside Iran. It's a closed, dark box. We don't know much. Well, I hope it's going to happen sooner than later.
Dr. Khedewi, your take, please, on what Dr. Of course, Kambar just said.
Well, if we wish a regime change, would also we wish a regime change in other countries, or it is just the Iranian? Because the disagreement was. I think we need to back again to the point. We are talking about occupation. We are talking about strikes that is actually taking place, and even when we talk about the talks that's going on between the United States and Lebanon, yes, of course, it includes some kind of calls for disarm of Hezbollah and the pressure for by the United States. However, I'm a bit worried about if this could change or
of course.
sorry.
Of course, I cannot deny at this point what Dr. Intefat says, that, and give him the credit, that the Lebanese government does not want Hezbollah. But our issue here was not Hezbollah at all, and why Iran is defending Hezbollah. Iran was not defending Hezbollah, Iran was defending Lebanon. So could you please both wrap up this episode?
That's a joke. That's really a joke what you just said. You cannot defend
Why is it a joke,
Lebanon.
sir?
You cannot defend Lebanon and support Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is against
I did not
Lebanon.
say we're supporting Hezbollah at all, sir. I did not say this.
You said support Lebanon, but the Iranian government
the Iranian government
Hezbollah,
is supporting Lebanon. I'm not supporting anybody. The Iranian government is supporting
the Iranian, so they can control it.
Dr. Mustafa Khedewi, do you have any comment as soon as possible? Because they're killing me here, and I have to wrap up this episode.
Well, I'm a bit sorry that the conversation has actually shifted from the goal.
I really appreciate both my guests, of course. I really respect Dr. Intefat Kamber, although there are different point of views.
Thank you very much
for being with us, Professor in Statecraft and National Security at the Institute of World Politics, Dr. Mustafa Khedewi, Assistant Professor of Law and International Relations. All respect, sir, to both our distinguished guests, and for your informative intellectual knowledge and for your valuable discussion and in-depth analysis for today's episode, which shifted into Hezbollah. As Lebanon's truce fractures and Swiss diplomacy stalls, the Middle East faces an unprecedented crossroads. Can Washington's fragile peace survive Tel Aviv's relentless military push? We will keep tracking this historic clash between diplomacy and war. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Think Tank. I'm Rana Al-Qastas. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for minute-by-minute coverage on the latest situation that states on the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran. Thank you very much for watching.